All right, I'm back, guys. So, pretty much, I'm gonna finish this off here with my spoiler review for Scream 6. So yeah, this is kind of a part two. Just gonna finish it off here. So where I was at was talking about the killers themselves in the film. Yeah, like Detective Bailey, Ethan, and Quinn. I thought Detective Bailey was obvious. Ethan and Quinn, not so much. Um, But yeah, I mean, Ethan and Quinn were in the film that much. They weren't developed as much either. But I still thought that they were pretty good for when they were in the film as their characters before their reveals. I thought they were great. Detective Bailey, he got the most screen time. He was good. Some fans have said that his acting was bad. Dermot Mulroney's. I don't know. I mean, not to me, not that much, but he was good for what he was. But this scene right here, the ladder scene, I want to talk about this, where Annika is literally just like being gutted by Ghostface, pretty much, and with the knife, and he's like almost cutting her up, like openly, and she's like just like bleeding, and I was like, in the theater, I was like, bro, what the fuck? I was like, what the hell, bro? Like they're actually doing this, and bro, that was just so brutal. Like, I don't know. Seeing that scene right there just gave me this weird feeling in my body. I was like, yo, what the hell? And then, she's being a ghost face, tries to get her, and Sam saves her. And then they all go across the ladder. Sam tests the water by going across first, and she goes across. Mindy goes across. They all go across safely, but Annika. Annika was Mindy's girlfriend, and I thought she was great in the film for what she was. And it was kind of the same thing for Danny in Scream 6 too. You know, um, Sam's love interest, and Tara and Chad were a little bit of a love couple too, um, which was great. So, but yeah, Mindy and Annika were a couple, and just seeing that scene for Mindy was just like kind of devastating. I was like, yo, what? Annika really got put through the ringer here. She's over here like being tortured right now. And, Mindy only got one slice in the arm, and, she Mindy went across first, but then again, Annika did say to Mindy that she should go first. So I mean that's kind of on Annika, but still, Annika still should have went first, and she probably would have survived. But either way, she ended up dying. Ghostface is over here like shaking the ladder, shaking it, and he's like moving it around, crazy, and she ends up falling off the ladder and hitting her head on a garbage can. Just and her face just like after she hits the garbage can and dies. I was like, if her being basically like almost gutted by Ghostface didn't kill her, this definitely did. And it's crazy because most of the time when a character gets thrown off a building, we usually don't see like the aftermath of their body, how it looks like. This we did. She literally hit her face on the dumpster can, and her face was just mangled and bloody, and it was just like I don't know. And I felt bad for Mindy because like she started crying afterwards, and seeing that I was just like, oh, that's kind of sad. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a very intense scene. Just seeing her go across the ladder and seeing that happen, it was crazy. And Quinn pretty much faked her death in that scene, because she basically faked her attack and what they call it. I think her whoever Quinn's boyfriend was, she ended up getting killed in the bathtub. He ended up getting killed in the bathtub, and basically they fake her death. Danny is like a witness, but I'm pretty sure Danny didn't witness it until like midway. Um, I kind of got to go back to rewatch this movie, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Danny did not witness Quinn getting attacked until like midway, and so that's why to him he thought it was real, but Quinn was basically faking her death right in front of them. And I honestly, I still didn't. I thought she was actually dead because that, to me, that was the most believable fake out death for a killer in this franchise. Well, obviously Billy, like you could say him too. Whenever you saw that movie for the first time, Roman, but like I don't know. It felt to me, it felt believable, even though we didn't see it. But I was like, yeah, I believe she was dead. Like, especially because Ghostface literally just threw her body onto Annika whenever Quinn's dead body or supposed dead body. And then in the end, they kind of explained it like, the Detective Bailey was like the first to arrive on the scene. He replaced it with another one. And some fans say that that was a little bit far fetched. I mean, to me, I don't. It's not far fetched to me. I mean, it's not. It's not that unbelievable. Because if you want to talk about unbelievable, I mean, Scream 3, Roman literally stopped. Somehow he stopped his pulse when he faked his death in Scream 3, and Roman, he somehow stopped his heartbeat. And, Gail checked his pulse and he somehow stopped it. And yeah, I mean, that was a weird fake out death. Um, so, yeah, I didn't really think Quinn's fake out death was like unrealistic to me, at least. Um, and there's another thing too, like that I want to talk about here, is that like Chad, he definitely was the whole. To me, like they talked about, like viewing on, he said that Chad was the heart of this film. To me, he definitely was a great character. I mean, like this film, like I said, it developed the core four so well. Um, Gail and Kirby as well to me. The newer characters, of course, not so much, like Danny and Detective Bailey and Annika, Quinn and Ethan. Of course, they weren't as much, and some of the other characters too. But I mean, I don't really care about the new characters. I mainly wanted the core four, Gail and Kirby, to at least all be developed, and in my opinion, they were. So I appreciate this film for that. Chad was greatly developed, and seeing him, that scene where they're all being chased, Sam, Tara, and Chad, they're all being chased into the shrine, and like Chad is trying to fight off Ghostface and whatnot, and they're all like teaming up on Ghostface, and then out of nowhere another Ghostface comes and starts stabbing Chad, just starts stabbing him, and yeah, Chad almost, he basically, we thought he was dead, but he wasn't. Which is another issue I'm seeing some fans have as well, like quite a bit actually, is that like, oh yeah, like how that's so unrealistic. How would he survive that? I do agree with that. I mean, like I will say that that was a little bit far fetched. Like he definitely was stabbed a lot of times. Like Scream 5, it was one thing. Like yeah, sure, it was still a little bit of a stretch in that movie, but it was like whatever to me. But then in this movie, he's being stabbed by two ghost faces, which was just awesome, by the way. But being stabbed by two ghost faces all at once, and some fans said he wasn't stabbed that deep or whatever. Like there were certain sides that he wasn't stabbed all that deep. Maybe old scar tissue. I mean, I don't know, but to me, I felt like he should have died in that scene. Um, like either way, they should have had at least one impactful death in this movie because, to me, I just felt like they talked about like, and I'm not saying, because there is some fans that are trying to be like, oh, they fully contradicted themselves. They fully contradicted themselves because they talked about how this movie is going to be a bloodbath and all this stuff, but they don't even have the guts to kill off one of the important characters in this film because they're too scared and blah, blah, blah. And to me, it's like I do see where some of these fans are coming from, but some fans were trying to make it seem like this film was completely just. I don't think that they were necessarily scared to kill off a character. Um, I think they just wanted to play it safe. And yes, some fans tried to point this out too about like, oh, but Mindy earlier in the film, she talked about how this, sequels of requels, they take risk and no one is safe. And then in this film, they literally kill no one important that is impactful as a death. Um, And honestly, I think they did that on purpose, writing wise, because it was almost like a subversion. Like, yeah, you would think because Mindy said that would happen, like they would kill off an important character, but it didn't because it's almost like a subversion. So I think they did that purposely, in my opinion. And yes, I do see where some fans are coming from, where they say like, oh yeah, if they talked about how this movie's gonna be brutal and gory, and yet they kill off none of the core four, Gale or Kirby. There was no stakes in the film. I see where some of these fans are coming from. I agree. Like it was far fetched that Chad survived. Definitely. Mindy, not so much. Like I don't think that was far fetched. Like she got stabbed in the train, in the subway, which by the way, that scene was intense as well. Like it was kind of just scary just seeing Ghostface in the subway. Um, but yeah, Mindy was not far fetched to me with her survival. Gail as well. Like that was just whatever. Kirby, a little bit because she was shot and kind of stabbed, but that was still whatever to me. Chad, however, he was stabbed multiple times by two Ghostface killers. So yeah, I do agree he should have died, and they should have at least had one impactful death in this film. Because even before this film came out, I was literally saying that like they should have. I was feeling like they were gonna kill off at least one of the core four members, like Mindy or Chad, and they did neither of that. They killed neither of them off, and I was like, yo, wait, what? So yeah, I do see where some of these fans are coming from when they say like, yeah, they kind of backtracked on their words on how this film was supposed to be brutal and gory, and Ghostface was supposed to be outlandish, and then they literally kind of make certain characters have plot armor and go against that a little bit. I get it, but at the same time, um what I don't understand is how some fans try to make it seem like this is the only movie where characters have had plot armor. And it's like, to me it just makes no sense. It just makes like some fans are trying to like make it seem like this is the first movie that's ever had characters have plot armor. This is the first movie that has never supposedly had no stakes, which I mean it didn't really have stakes in terms of killing off important characters. But at the same time though, it's like it definitely did deliver still on the brutality, and the gore of this film. There's no denying that either way. Um, and yes, they tried to. Yes, they said Ghostface was something different. Yes, I agree. They should have killed off someone, at least from the core four. Mindy or Chad. They should have killed one of them off at least. I agree. But at the same time, though, and even Danny, they could have killed him off too. As much as I liked his character, he wasn't in the film as much, but as I liked his character too, and they should have killed him off as well. But still, though, it was like, you know, they probably could have killed Danny off too, but it's like whatever to me. But yeah, I agree they should have killed off Chad. But to act like this is the only film where characters have had plot armor, I no, bro. Like you can't say that because. And another thing too is like some fans are trying to be like, oh, but this is the film that really exceeded the plot armor level. Like they went above and beyond in this film more than any other film because characters were like stabbed left and right and survived, and no other Scream movie has done that. That's basically what some fans are trying to say here, and to me, it's like, okay, like sure, because literally I mean, here's the thing. You want to talk about plot armor? I mean, look at Dewey. Dewey was literally stabbed so many times throughout this franchise and survived. And sure, like it may have not been as intense as Chad, but still, the point still stands though. He survived so many situations where he would have realistically been dead. The original Scream movie, he probably would have died because he was sitting there for hours and hours just laying there on the ground. He was originally going to die in the original Scream movie, but they kept him alive, similar to Chad in Scream 5. So it's almost like Chad is kind of the new Dewey, but you get my point though. It's like, Dewey was like, he was like surviving these outlandish things, and even in Scream 2, like they said he survived because he was stabbed in old scar tissue. But like I said though, there were so many situations that even in Scream 3, like when Roman was over here like beating him up, and he threw the knife at his head. He was over here knocking him out. He literally tied up Roman in Scream 3. He tied up Gale, and he Ghostface in Scream 3. He tied up both Gale and Dewey to the chair. He could have killed them right there. I mean, you're gonna talk about plot armor right there. He could have killed them. Gale could have realistically been dead a long time ago too. Sydney, she's the main character, so it makes sense she would have plot armor. But at the same time, she would have realistically been dead a long time ago too, because no killer, realistically, so to speak, no killer is just gonna just go on a whole monologue for like 20 minutes and just let Sydney get away every single time. That wouldn't happen every single time, realistically. Sydney would have been dead a long time ago. And, there were certain kills in this franchise that, like Tatum dying by a garage door. That was outlandish. Another, and, like, what's it called? Mickey killing the two cops, the two armed trained detectives in Scream 2. I mean, the dude was strong, but like, if you want to be realistic, I don't think Mickey would have taken those two detectives out in Scream 2 so easily like he did. Nor do I think, I felt like they probably would have shot him too, but, and then in Scream 2, like, you literally had Mrs. Loomis literally dragging Randy into a van, stabbing him, throwing him around like it's nothing. Scream 3, you had this freaking voice changer from outer space in the future. And then Ghostface is working by himself, all alone, like teleporting throughout the film. Scream 4, you had Ghostface, what's it called? With Jill at the end of the film, whenever she literally got electrocuted to the head, and she survived that. Like, it's one thing to survive that, but to then get back up immediately after that, like, realistically, I don't think she would get back up after that. She would have stayed down for a long time. Like, she's not getting back up after having, the defibrillator in Scream 4 when Sydney put the pads to her head. All that electricity, her brain would have been fried right there. Like, you could say she wouldn't have died, but she wouldn't get back up right away. So then she got shot in her chest, and that was the final blow. Even in Scream 3, a lot of the kills in that movie, characters in that film were dying by the most weakest stabs ever. Like Christine, Cotton's girlfriend in Scream 3 in the opening scene, she literally died by only one stab to the back. Just one stab. Somehow that killed her permanently. And then, and then Scream 5, literally, like, Ghostface killed a police officer, a sheriff, Judy, and her son, and the cops somehow took forever to arrive. And it's just certain things like that have always been unrealistic in this franchise. And even Amber, like her whole face and body was like burnt up, and she gets back up like it's nothing right away. Like, it's one thing to say that didn't kill her, but yeah, she got back up like it was nothing after that. Like, it's just, like I said, sometimes you just have to, like, there's always been unrealistic things in this franchise that, and I could point out way more, but, I'm not going to do that. But you get the point. Like, there's always been so many unrealistic things in this franchise. And for some fans to act like this is the only movie that has, like, had unrealistic things in it. It had characters, had plot armor, it had this and that, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I'm sorry, bro. I just don't. Some fans are just, like, trying to act like this is the first film where characters have plot armor, where characters don't die, where there's unrealistic things about it. Like, I don't get it, bro. Like, it's like, it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Was it, like I said, I'm not denying that it wasn't a stretch that Chad survived. Was I happy he survived? Yeah, because I liked this character. Um, but was it unrealistic? Yes. But at the same time, though, to act like this is the only film where characters have survived outlandish things or have died by outlandish things too is like, no, that makes no sense. This is not the film that has exceeded unrealistic things within this franchise. No, it's not. So yeah, that's my whole thing there. Like I said, was it a little bit outlandish that Chad survived? Yeah, it definitely was, but it's not the first time a character has survived or has died from something outlandish and crazy like that. Um, and like I said, Mindy, she was literally got stabbed in her stomach in the train, and she survived what she did, and that's one thing. And I don't think that was unrealistic or a big problem for me. Even Kirby, like I said, she was stabbed and she was like shot in the third act, and she survived, and like that. That's, to me, that wasn't unrealistic. But I could agree, like I said, with the whole Chad thing. I get it. Him surviving was a big stretch. It definitely was. I'm not denying that, like I said. But to act like this is the only movie that has had big stretches, you know, like, I get it. There hasn't been a movie, specifically where a character is stabbed multiple times and they survive that. But I mean, like I said, the unrealistic things that I just named, though, there's no doubt that those were unrealistic and outlandish. That, even Richie, actually, now that I think about it, Richie in Scream 5, he was literally stabbed like 22, 23 times, I'm pretty sure, by Sam. And the dude was still talking. And he got stabbed in the mouth too. He was talking, still alive. He was moving around. He didn't finally die until Sam slit his throat and like shot him 3 times in the head. You're not gonna call that outlandish? I mean, like, I'm just saying, bro. I don't know. But yeah, the third act here that I'm gonna be talking about now, is another thing too that I'm kind of saying that is a little bit, um, like a little bit divisive with some fans. Like some fans, like I'm saying, some fans don't like the third act. They don't like the killer reveals and the motives for the killers either. Um, yeah, I will say, I thought the reveals of the killers were great. Like I said, I saw Detective Bailey coming from a mile away, but Ethan and Quinn, for some reason, I did not guess them. Um, I did not guess Ethan. He didn't like. I didn't suspect him as much. There was times where I did suspect him, but not nearly as much. And Quinn, same thing for her. Like, I suspected her at times, but overall, I did not suspect her. Like, I don't know why, but I just didn't really. Um, yeah, that's just me though. But the third act, once we get to the killer reveals and the motives, we see there's 3 killers unmasked. And then, like, the killers, they go on their whole rant, their monologue, of course. And there's, like, the third act, I will say, was a little bit rushed. Like, there was a little bit of, um, it did feel a little bit, like, too fast paced and a little bit, just like, I don't know, the movie, the movie was great, but the third act, I will say, felt a little bit too rushed. Like, it felt a little bit too fast. Like it was just going way too quickly. And for me, I felt like that was kind of, you know not a huge issue, but just a little bit. 'Cause I felt like they could have at least, you know maybe they could have even had an extra 10 minutes of this film, um, to really settle down this third act, the pacing and whatnot. But like I said, I like the killer reveals, and I like their motive, actually, because I see some fans, they say, oh, it's just a Scream 2 motive, or, Richie's Richie's father, Richie's and Richie's siblings and whatnot. They're coming after Sam for that, and they're blaming her like, oh yeah, this is the same old Mrs. Loomis revenge motive. Plain old revenge. And some fans, they don't like that. I get it. I get it. I understand. But for me personally, it worked because honestly, I think they set it up a little bit better than Scream 2, to be honest. Because, first of all, it's a little bit of a change seeing that there's almost basically five killers in this movie. Like I said, the two in the beginning of the opening scene of Scream 6, they get killed off, and then we have these three. So then three killers in the end, and it's a whole family working together, plus a detective who has the ownerships and has his ins and outs and whatnot to a lot of access and to stuff and whatnot. So that right there is different in itself, and just seeing how it was like set up, to me, I thought it was great. And like I said, I mean, Dermot Mulroney, like some fans say, like, oh yeah, his character Detective Bailey was a little bit of a Looney Tune, in the third act. His acting was just a little bit off. I mean, I get it. Like I do agree with that, but I mean, like, but because like the over the topness for killers in this franchise after they reveal themselves, like that's nothing new. I feel like that's always been the case. Like the killers, they always reveal themselves, and even as a Detective Bailey wasn't really, in the right headspace, because he was over here. He was smart. He was pretty smart. I mean, he's a detective, and he was pretty sneaky, and he had tactics. I felt like in the as a killer, but he still had flaws. I mean, he was kind of like acting a little bit, dumb in the third act, and that's how almost every killer in this franchise is. When they reveal themselves, they act dumb and they make dumb decisions and this and that. And yeah, like I definitely do see where some fans are coming from with that, but yeah, and then they reveal themselves, and he's talking about how, oh, Sam, you killed Richie and this and that, and Sam literally just roasted Richie in front of in front of his own family. Like Sam was like, he was a man baby who made his girlfriend do all the killing. Like, yo, like Sam was not holding back. She was like trying to hit them in their where it hurts, So yeah, I mean, Sam was literally just like, kind of roasting the killers and talking bad about Richie. And what I find great though is the fact that not only were they trying to frame Sam, but they were trying to like I said, they blamed her early on in the film because they started these rumors and conspiracies that she's a killer and all this stuff. And I like that angle because it kind of ties into the motive, which kind of elevates it to be a little bit different than some of these fans are claiming, because some fans are trying to claim that it's just a straight up Scream 2 Mrs. Loomis motive, but that's not true. It's a little bit executed differently. Sure, it's the same at face value, but not in the same context completely, because even Detective Bailey explains like he kind of did maybe push Richie a little bit more far with the whole stab stuff, and he may have had a wrong impact on Richie and with his obsession with movies and the stab franchise and all this stuff. And he kind of, as a parent, he's kind of admitting his faults even as a killer, and I don't think that's something we've really seen before, especially not by Mrs. Loomis in Scream 2. Like, she didn't admit her faults as a parent. Detective Bailey did though, he was kind of like, saying like, oh yeah, like, if it is kind of my fault, like I'm the one who pushed him and pushed this stuff on him. But I just know that, but it was just because he really liked it, and as a kid, and he maybe I'm the one who kind of is the reason he became too obsessed with it. But this was the stuff that he liked, and he created his own films, his little small films, and I let him, have a collection and the shrine and all that stuff. Like, I thought that was just great because it almost gave a little bit more now backstory to Richie in Scream 5, and it almost makes me appreciate Richie a little bit more, honestly, because I liked Richie as a character, but as a killer, he was kind of like not as much. I liked Amber more as a killer, but now I'm appreciating Richie like a little bit more now because like this kind of like Scream 6 kind of gave more of a just a backstory to Richie now, but his family members going after Sam in Scream 6. And me personally, I like that. And that's why with Scream 6, with the motive, it ties in a little bit differently compared to how you would probably view it if you're just looking at it at face value as just a simple revenge motive, for Richie and whatnot, his family going after Sam. If you look at it at just that face value, of course it's going to feel that way, but it's not actually completely that way. I thought it was just executed way better, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, I thought like because it gave more backstory to Richie. I feel like, so in my opinion, I feel like Scream 6 with the revenge motive was kind of executed a little bit more better than Scream 2, for me at least. And some fans are saying that, because I get it if you don't like the motive, but to say it wasn't creative or this and that, and it's just a simple motive that is boring, I find that kind of funny, because like it's one thing to not like the motive, but to say it's just a dumb, simple, non-creative motive. But these are probably the same fans who hated Scream 5's motive, even though that was not even remotely the same as any other motive in this franchise that came before it. I mean, it literally, Scream 5's motive was about toxic fandom. That was something new and different. Yes, it had something to do with the stab films, but the toxic fandom motive was all what Scream 5 was about. And it tied into that. And there was quite a bit of fans who hated that motive too. And it wasn't the same old revenge motive. And now that Scream 6 goes back to the revenge motive, then now it seems like almost some of these same fans are now like, oh, this motive sucks. But these same fans were hating on Scream 5's motive for being different and not being a revenge motive. So to me, it's like I don't know, it's a bit contradicting how some of these fans are, like some of these fans, like, they want a revenge motive. They get it, and then they say it's just the same motive. They get a new motive, and then they say, oh, it's a dumb motive. They want a more personal revenge motive. So then it's just like, some of these fans are just like, I don't know. They contradict themselves. And that's why, to me, it's just, I mean, it's one thing, like I said, I'm not saying if you hated the motive that I'm, putting you exactly in that category, but I have seen some fans who have contradicted themselves this way, because I've seen it, bro. And yeah, like I said, I like the motive, and I like the third act. It was a bit silly too, I will admit, just of how the Detective Bailey was acting, and even just Quinn and Ethan, they were acting a bit silly. But man, Tara stabbing Ethan through the mouth, Sam going in the Ghostface costume, stabbing Detective Bailey multiple times, and then stabbing him through the eye, like, oh, like, I don't know, bro. Those two kills were just brutal. I mean, Quinn just got a shot to the head, so that was like whatever. But Ethan and Detective Bailey really got it. But actually, Kirby ends up, yeah, because yeah, Ethan gets hit, with this. He gets the same TV that smashed Stu's head. The same TV ends up smashing onto Ethan, so that ends up killing him. And yeah, I thought like overall the third act and the reveal was great. Um, they like, and I thought Scream Six was just good in general. It has its flaws. I do agree. Like some of the meta commentary in this film was off. The third act was a little bit rushed. Um, and it has um just some issues that I do agree with. Like there was certain characters had plot armor. Certain that third act was a little bit rushed for me, and yeah, like there was just certain characters making dumb decisions. But that's just how this franchise is, and horror movies in general. So, but yeah, like this movie has some of its flaws, but I still thought it was a great film to me, in my opinion. So yeah, and then at the end of the film, Tara's like trying to kiss Chad, and like I said, it was a big stretch that he survived, but yeah, I mean, it's whatever to me. I mean, it's like whatever at the end of the day. And even Gail, we find out she survived too. Like I said, she survived. Kirby survived. Mindy survived. And like I said, I get it. Like there's too many characters that they could have killed at least one of them off, like Mindy or Chad. Like I get that, but I understand. I totally get that. But there's also just some fans that have just contradicted themselves with what they're saying, because some fans have tried to say like, oh, like I can't believe Scream 6 didn't raise the stakes. I can't believe Scream 6 didn't kill any important characters off. They literally, this movie had no stakes at all. But then Scream 5, whenever they killed Dewey, they were like, some of these same fans were the ones complaining about how they killed Dewey and they should have never killed him. They should have never raised the stakes in that film and killed him off. Then Scream 6 kills, and like put the core four aside, the legacy characters, which I kind of do consider Kirby a legacy character. But, I mean, like they don't kill off Kirby or Gale. And, some of these fans are still complaining. And some of these same fans were the ones complaining when they killed Dewey in Scream 5. So it's a bit contradicting when now, all of a sudden in Scream 6, they decide to kind of play it safe and then you still complain. But in Scream 5, they don't play it safe and they actually kill off a legacy character and you still complain. To me, it's just like, I don't know, bro. Some of these fans are kind of just complaining just to complain, in my opinion. But that's just me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about Scream 6. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great film. I give it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, I'm probably going to rewatch it soon. So that was my review. This was the part 2. I'm finishing it now. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. I know there's been multiple YouTubers that have already made their reviews, but I finally finished mine. So yeah, a lot of other YouTubers have made their spoiler reviews for Scream 6, but I finally got to do mine, so I'm glad for that. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.